Hey, welcome back. So in this one, we're looking at event listeners, the fun stuff. Okay, so event listeners are very important inside JavaScript. They really make JavaScript tick, so to say. And that's because an event listener listens for some kind of event and then it reacts to it. So how does that work exactly? So let me remove everything in my script tag like so. So let's say we have a button here. Now this doesn't have to be a button. It can be anything. It can be a div, an image, it doesn't matter. All of them have events that can be triggered. So this is a type of button, and then I want to add a value of click me. Okay, so let's go to our browser here for a second. So this is the button here. Now if I click on this button, nothing really happens because I have to actually tell the browser what to do when this button is clicked. But the question is, how does the browser know when the button is clicked? Now this is where events come in. So if I click on it, there is an event that happens here which is called the click event. So there are many events here. We can explore them. If I put a space there and just type on like this. So the moment I say on, everything that is suggested here is an event. So if we look here, there's on input, on focus, on error, on ended, on drop, on drag start, etc, etc. But there's one here which says on click. So if I do that, then it means whatever I put in here will run when this button is clicked. Now keep in mind, anything you put inside this kind of event is JavaScript. So anything I type in here is the same as typing it in here. So for example, if I say alert clicked like so. Now I have to be very careful here because you see there are double quotes outside. I shouldn't collide with the ones outside. Otherwise it will think the event starts here and ends there. So I have to put a single quote inside and leave the double quotes outside like so. So what I'm telling it here is that when it's clicked, alert me with a clicked text. So if I refresh and I click, you see there it is, clicked. As simple as that. Now, sometimes you may want to put a very lengthy amount of code inside this click event. Maybe you want to do a million things when this thing is clicked. You can't squeeze it in here. However, you can try, because if you do this as well, for example, then you can put a lot of code. So for example, I can put another alert here and say clicked, and then I'll say twice like so. Then I can add more lines of code. This is very valid. If I click here, I'll say clicked, and then I'll say clicked twice. Okay, so let's go back for a second. Now this doesn't look very good. So instead what we will do is run a function once this is called. So we will just say function right there. Because a function, if you don't give it a name, you just say function blah blah blah. It will run immediately in here. So actually no, this is not actually true. What I need to do is refer to a function the same way. If for example, if I typed a function here, I say function clicked, that will be the function clicked. Let me do that, and then all I need to do is have an alert that says clicked as usual. Okay, so if I want to run this function as soon as the script loads, what I will do is call it here. I'll say function, or actually call it by its name. I'll say clicked like so, and then it's going to run. So if I come back here and refresh, it's going to run immediately. But instead of calling it from here, I can call it from there. So let me come here Just the way I was calling the function here, I'll call it from there this time. So I'll refresh, and you see it doesn't run immediately because it's waiting for the on click. This is when this will run. So I can refresh and click, and then you see clicked there, because this now is calling that function. So this is how you get things to run at a very specific time during a specific event. You don't need the semicolon here, it will work without it because this is just one line. Now, it's not only on the click event, there's plenty of these, so I invite you to explore them. Just type on and then go through all of these and see which ones work best. Because for example, there's on change, which is when the value of the input changes, that's when that works. But the value of the button never changes, so this cannot work. The only value that changes is for a text box. For example, if the user is typing something, that's the on change event. But let's find one which is like on mouse. All these are mouse events. On mouse move, like that. So when the mouse moves over the item, if I refresh and just bring the mouse close, boom. I haven't clicked, but it's showing the function actually was triggered. I just move around it, boom. There we go. So there's one of those. And then there's mouse leave, mouse enter, mouse this, mouse. So there's plenty of these. There's mouse wheel, for example, on mouse wheel. Yes. So let's see if when I spin the mouse wheel here, what will happen. Yeah, I don't know what that does because it's not working, definitely. So I invite you to go through all of these and try them. So let's test the one with a text box as an input. So let's try type is equal to text. And then let's try on input, not on change, but on input. Okay. So if I refresh, there's this one here. So I'll click. The moment I edit something, you see it shows there, because every time I input something, it runs the function. Now, this is not the only way to trigger this function. Another way is to use an event listener, to add an event listener via the code here, the JavaScript code, instead of adding it from here. So how do we do that? Let me remove all these event listeners here for a second. And once I remove them, if I refresh, no matter what I do to these items, I see nothing. Okay, that's to be expected because we've removed the event listeners. But I can add them here by grabbing this item and then adding an event listener to it. So let me add a class here so I can just grab this thing. So I'll say JS input, that's what I'll call it. And then use a query selector now. So I'm just going to say var my input, which can be any name, is equal to document dot query selector. Careful with the capital letters there. And then I'm selecting the class, so I'll put a dot and say JS input. Okay, so now this item is in here. So whatever I do to this, I'm doing to that. So here I'm just going to say my input dot add event listener, like that. Now, add event listener takes two parameters. The first one is what event you are trying to use. Now, a way to know the event here is by, if I type on like this and you check all these events that come up here, as long as you remove the on, that's one event you can put. Let's say, for example, on click, right? It says on click there. So I'll remove the on and just type click. And then a comma. Now the second item we add, the second parameter, is a function that will run. So we already have a function right here called clicked. So I will copy that and paste it here. Now please note that I am not putting the brackets here on this thing while adding it to this. Now that's because I am just telling it that this is the reference to the function. I don't want to run the function here while referencing it. I'm just telling it that when the click happens, run this a function named by this. So don't put the curly brackets at the end there, or the brackets anyway. So once I've done this, I've added an event listener which on the click will activate this function. So let me refresh, and if I click now, nothing is happening. But why? Well, I've put it on the text there on click. So let's click this text, and there we go, it's working. So I can add any event here. I can add change, for example. Refresh. So now if I click, nothing happens, but if I change the data, now on change only manifests when you leave the control. So here I'm typing, it doesn't come in, but the moment I leave this, things have changed in there, so it's going to evoke that. If you want it to evoke immediately, you say on input, so you put input there and refresh. Now when I type, it actually works. So that's how you add an event listener. Now you don't have to reference a function. You can create an anonymous function right here. So I can just say function. If the thing you want to do is very small, it doesn't need a very large function to run. But even with a large function, you can still do it this way. So I'll do like that, put the brackets for a function, the same way everything is here. I'm just repeating what's here. So I'll do this. And now everything is complete, but I can't put code in here. I'll have to do that so that I have more space. Then I'll just put the same alert here. Clicked from inside listener, from inside the listener, right? So we are not running this, we're going to run that. So refresh, and there we go, clicked from inside the listener. Okay, so these are the ways that you add an event listener and have a function run because of that event. So there are a lot of events you can go through. Just use Google and check what each event, when that event runs on. Just type on there and go through all of them and Google them and see what they do, when they actually run, and so on. Okay, so I will see you in another video.